Um, today, we intended to talk about something that it's very crazy and keeps many IT teams up at night. Actually, we're gonna talk about how to measure things like cost for performance and quality, and too often the choice is either to rely on gut feeling or stick to fixed budgets. And our goal today is to demystify measurement and agile. We want to talk about how we can use a method, standardized methods, um, to decision make, enabling us to act based on facts. Let's start. Let's start by clearing some myths that we that still float around about agile. You've probably heard things like there is no schedule in agile, no defined scope, no deadline. These are common simplification, and as I said, they are very dangerous too. Actually, in agile, we have a plan. We have a planning. We have monitor. Agile has plenty. We have sprints, defined backlog, target delivery dates, and budgets. The main difference is that the scope involves, it adapts. It's not that it doesn't exist, but it's not all looked at in from the day one. And this involves scope is precisely what makes measurement so tricky. The best word is trick and inconsistent. That where many teams fall back on intuition or internal estimations methods that works for them. But at the end of the day, this approach don't allow doesn't allow for easy comparisons across teams, projects, and organizations. This is where structured alternatives come in. In this context, Simões used to say and like to use the road metaphor. The complexity of the requirement, its size and function point is like the terrain, the curves and slopes. The team's productive is like the driver's skill. It can vary, but the terrain difficult remains objectively the same. uh, and so here we can see how fascinating. What is fascinating is the potential of these methods. They should be repeatable and objective. We are talking about things like function point and simple function point promoted by IFPUG and aligned with ISO. The core idea is to measure user delivered value or functional size based on elementary process, things like adding a new customer or generating a report. This gives you a basis of comparisons. And since we are talking about agile, this brings us to ever popular starting points. But the problem is that we are not talking about that story points not useful. They are very useful, but the point is that there is no standard and there is no organization responsible to keep control and standard of this measure. And since we are talking about the agile, they are useful especially for internal team planning and tracking velocity, but their limitation is clear. They are relative, defined independently by its team. Story points don't provide the objectively needed to compare projects, teams, or organizations, or to benchmark against global data like what the IFPUG offers. If you want to use story points, actually you have to define that as a standard, and would be necessary, will be required some steps. First, you have to classify user stories, and after you have to establish standards and criteria, define the granularity of the user story, define standard and criteria for the complexity of the user story, describe procedure. So what I'm saying that you have to do many steps before you use that, and even after that, since this scale and standard will establish and use it for your organization, for the organization itself, you will not be able to compare your data, your numbers with another one. It cannot be used to feed a benchmark database for broader organization use. And so, um, said, we try to demonstrate in this table that according to ISO, we established 21 criteria, and to establish if one method is good or is not good, comparing to others. And using function point and simple function point, we found that we can establish 100% and 80% respectively. Even man hour is much better than story points. So definitely when we are able to use standardized, repeatable, and auditable measurement methods, we can use those numbers. We can use your data to compare with around the world with another with the market. So when we start, but when we're talking about that, so a natural concern arises. One function point be too bureaucratic for agile teams used to quick estimation. That's a valid concern. The key is to integrate this into your workflow efficiently using support to clear workflow and automations. And the value you get in return in huge. By using historical bases like IFPUGs, you can benchmark from day one, establish statistical control limits for productivity and defect density, and significantly support continuous improvement models like CMMI, especially at the maturity level 5, where quantitative management is required. Let me share a real case that me and Simões had the opportunity to see in person. Let me share a real case from a Brazilian software organization. By the way, this case was published in a journal. If you are interested, you can find this case here. And so at first,
Carlos, Thiago,
Thiago,
sorry
we
to
can only
interrupt
see
you.
the initial screen,
Yeah.
slide number 1.
I'm
You're
sorry, I
saying
didn't
all the
hear.
time the initial screen.
Is it still in the initial screen?
Yeah,
Yes.
It's not moving.
now
No,
we can see it. Now
now
we
it's
can see it.
changing.
Yeah, now we can see. Yeah, now it's moving.
Oh my God.
More one.
So let me go back here.
Yes, just this is screen. This is light.
Okay. So
Okay.
what I was saying that what I was saying is that when we are talking about to use function points or simple function points, it's very common that people gonna ask, oh, but I think that it will be very bureaucratic for agile teams. And we had one very good experience in a company, in an international company, and we reaching out maturity level 5 of CMMI model. Initially, they had an informal development process, no reference model, and no measurement base. And after they began a process improvement projects using CMMI level 2 and external measurement data. And at that point, we used ISBag database. It was very helpful, was very valuable. And then we advanced it to CMMI level 3, adopting an internal organizational measurement base. Eventually, the company reached out level 5, applying statistical methods for performance and quality control. Their data also helped to update the ISBAX benchmark because our company submitted the results that we had in the past. So, but now probably your mind asks, how does this approach deal with the dynamic nature of agile backlog? First, we have to start planning. We have to start with an initial estimate based on what you know. As the project progresses and you learn more, estimators are refined and the backlog naturally evolves. The trick is to fix some variables like budget, hourly rate, or productivity expectations, and use that to calculate the total deliverable functional size, effort, and time and timeline. So right here, as you can see, the point is that you have business needed that will be broken down into smaller pieces like we did, and will be break down into smaller pieces like we did in the past, and the scope is not fixed. But the following are fixed: budget, hourly rate, productivity. And so we can use that to apply here in your scope, and the result will be effort, functional size, deadline, and team size. So our scenario is that when we are planning and monitoring one system, first of all, we have desired business need and adopting one strategy and of agile development using Kanban, and the granularity of user story follows the guidelines established by the ISO, and using a tool that we developed, you can or using estimated model with the data that you collected from international databases like ISBAX or from your own base, you can get some information. So you can achieve what is your productivity like we did. Initially, the productivity that we found was 10 man hours per function point. And so we used that to calculate it, our planning to plan our projects. Let's say your initial backlog is 38 function point. So using your productivity estimated 10 hours per function point, we have here 380 hours, which means if you consider your rate, consider hourly rate $200 or reais. We considered reais because it was our reality, but you can convert if you want. And so we have the budget 76,000 reais or dollars. It doesn't matter the currency. And using this tool, we can establishing one planning for your project, and as well, so we also can noted that we have the same data that will be required if you are interested to submit to IFPUG. And we have here tin size, we have final backlog date, we have E4, and we have function point. So you can use those numbers. And in this context, let's assume that later, okay, as I said, we have, let's go back here. We had, in the beginning, we had we have 38 function point, and let's assume that now we have more functionalities that we have to include in your backlog. So let's assume that this functionality, after we measure, they will be 36 function points. So we have to replan your project, and new estimators and replan are needed and recalculated the current backlog. So here we got 74 function point, and which means considering the productivity that we had 10, it will be 740 hours and 148,000 reais or dollars. It doesn't matter. So after that, all required business needed have been implemented in our case. And here you can see that first we have man-hour according to estimate typing, grouping, and priority of FPA. We have total performed final. We have partial man-hour completed so far. We have percent of actual progress for development life cycle, a percent proportional progress of actual E4. We have productive gain. Yeah, we have many numbers that after you can use to plan your next project or your next sprint or your next roadmap. So what are the practical benefits of adopting standardized data-driven measurement in Agile? As you can see here, after we apply a statistical process control, we have more informed and evidence-based decision making, earlier detections of issues and deviations, a solid foundations for continuous improvement, and the ability to benchmark against peers and industry data, and crucially, marking the process auditable. So what does it mean? That means that you can track planned versus actual budgets and E4. If you planned something, you can check it out if you what's going on, what's happening at the end. This is so powerful for organizations aiming to maturity their process and align with models like CMMI. In the example that I mentioned, the team delivered 74 function points and on time and under budget. So remember that we planned is spend much more than that, and at the end we saved money, we saved hour, we saved function point that we also can include in more functionality if you are interested on that. So, and at the end, we can also demonstrate it that that we have compliance with CMMI level 5. Of course, that be aware of that and in CMMI, not everything, some practice areas and practices are not directly focused on planning and monitoring. Although the two included some practice areas, some do not fall within the scope of planning and monitor, such as organizational training, process assets. But considering only the practice areas and practice within the scope of planning and monitor, the two compliances is 100%. Yeah, we can check it out right here. The total of practice would be 65, but only some of them, as I said, will be focused on this practice, and we achieved 100%, 55 or 55. It's remaining only 10s, but as I said, those focus are not on planning and monitor. And so, in conclusion, planning based on the final, complete, and detailed functional size required full knowledge. It's more appropriated to establish a planning and prioritization process based on initial backlog. Estimated are updated as the initial backlog. At the end of the Agile development cycle, a total functional size estimated used by the adopted method will be delivered instead fixed. So we had, as you can see, we had many benefits here. And lastly, a reflection to leave you with. What if instead of trying to fix the detailed scope up front, which we know is unrealistic in software, because software is not tangible, is intangible, we focus instead on the functional size that fits within the available budgeting and productivities? That's the question. So thank you so much. I'm so sorry for those technical problems, and now we can open for questions.